The following is an exclusive presentation of Meet the Leaders, only on Optimum. We're your TV, phone, and internet company.
Coming up on Meet the Leaders, are homeowners going to lose their STAR property tax rebate? And will the closure of Sagamore Children's Psychiatric Center be postponed? Meet the Leaders starts right now. Hi, I'm Pat Halpin. Welcome to Meet the Leaders, the show getting you to the heart of local government right here and right now from New York's 12th Assembly District, Andrew Raia. Assemblyman, it's great to have you back on Meet the Leaders.
Thanks, it's wonderful to be here, Pat.
So the 12th Assembly District is up in Huntington. Does it cover what communities?
No, it's actually more than that, and it was formerly the 9th Assembly District, but as a result of redistricting, it's now the 12th District. But 66% of the district is in the town of Huntington. The other is split between town of Babylon, so it includes Deer Park, North Babylon, as well as large segments in Islip, West Islip, a big chunk of Bay Shore, and a little bit of Brentwood. So it pretty much runs all the way from the Sound almost to the ocean.
Yeah, well, not quite to the ocean, but you're right. It does run south of Northern State Parkways, or at least the LIE. So tell me, how much did your district change as a result of reapportionment?
11% is new. So it basically stayed the same. I lost a little bit in Huntington, picked up a little more in Islip.
So what's going on with the Sagamore Psychiatric Center?
Well, this is the only inpatient children's psychiatric hospital on all of Long Island. And over the years, there's been attempts to close it or scale back the operation. Why? I'm really not sure, because more than likely it's because they want to protect the two facilities in the New York City area, which is Queens and the Bronx. But the problem is to ask parents, first off, they do wonderful work.
Well, talk to me about the children that are being served there.
These are the most vulnerable in society.
What does that mean?
These are the ones that may be likely. Well, for instance, we saw what happened down south with that senator, I believe, from Virginia or West Virginia, in which he couldn't get his son into an inpatient facility.
Right, this was a state senator who had run for governor.
Correct. And here's somebody you would think would have the power or the influence to get his child.
Or at least know somebody who could help him.
Correct. And didn't, and look what happened. That child wound up stabbing his own father. And I can tell you, not a day goes by. My own hairdresser has had a similar problem with her son, in which they're violent, they overreact, they have psychological problems, and they are a threat in many instances to their own families. So this is very important that you have an inpatient hospital for children on Long Island, because you can't expect parents who are an important component of the rehabilitation of these kids. Right. They need to be in their lives, and to ask parents to drive to Queens or to the Bronx, we all know how bad traffic is, and it's just not right. This is one facility for all of Nassau and Suffolk County, and it is certainly not underutilized. But my concern is this is...
Is that true? I mean, hasn't the population gone down? I mean, look, the nature of the therapies, the psychotropic drugs, all of the things that are used to treat people rather than institutionalize them has really changed the nature of the psychiatric care that was provided, especially out here in places like Long Island.
I would disagree with you, because over the years there's been a movement to deinstitutionalize, and it started with the current governor's father. The problem is, sure, okay, let's put them in community or group homes. If you look at the waiting list to get a child into a group home, it could be years. So, yes, drugs have helped to some degree, but sometimes kids don't take their drugs. Sometimes they need to be in an inpatient facility. And Sagamore has performed miracles with children over the years. And instead of asking us to close our only regional facility, maybe we should close one in Queens and have the folks from Queens do a reverse commute out to Long Island, because we know the traffic's better that way. But unfortunately, when it comes to things like this, Long Island always loses out to its big brother, which is what happens in New York City.
So what's going to happen? The budget was adopted. It called for the closure of this, the phase out, so it was anticipated that would happen. You and all of the other state legislators are actively lobbying to keep the facility open, even legislators who voted for the budget.
Correct.
Now, in all fairness, the budget, like anything else, it has a lot of things in it that you like and some things that you don't.
I voted for that very same budget as well.
I mean, I want to be fair about that. But that said, what are the chances of keeping this open, given the fact that the dollars literally are not there?
This is not just a Long Island fight. Believe it or not, there is actually legislation introduced in the Senate, and I believe and will be introduced in the Assembly. I guarantee you that, because the western tier, upstate New York, has almost the identical same issue. So this is one of those instances in which you're going to have Long Island legislators and upstate legislators coming together to send a message to the governor that facilities like this mean something and are important to their communities. This year we have a budget surplus, so it's my hope that we are going to go back and spend those dollars where they're needed.
Yeah, so isn't this really going to be part of a budget fight?
Negotiation.
That's going to be, in the end, you're going to be successful or not successful based on what happens in the budget for 2014.
Always comes down to dollar and cents. But keep in mind, if both houses, the Senate and the Assembly, pass a bill and it passes almost unanimously, which it will, that puts a lot of pressure on the governor, and the governor is going to be hard pressed to veto a piece of legislation.
Okay, well, let's talk about another subject that's getting an enormous amount of press and headlines, and it has to do with this reaction to the latest education reform called Common Core.
Common Core.
Now, people hear that phrase and they look, oh, they're upset about Common Core. What the heck does that mean?
Common Core is many components to basically redesigning the whole educational system. Essentially, Common Core and its principles started with some of billionaires, quite honestly, the Bill Gates, the corporate leaders of America that said we need to do better in educating our youth so they're ready for real-world life.
Isn't that true?
Yes, but there's a way to go about it and a way not to go about it. And I would contend that these corporate leaders are only doing this to further line their pockets down the road.
Oh, please, come on.
Well,
hold on. Bill Gates has spent billions of dollars saying that the American education system is not where it should be, especially considering who we are as a nation, what's spent here, and how we as a nation compare to the rest of the world on standardized tests that the rest of the world and the United States take called like the NAEP test. But so I don't know if it's about lining it. All I know is that there are a lot of jobs that are going begging because Americans do not have the skills necessary to fill them.
Okay. What does Bill Gates do? He produces software, correct?
He's actually kind of retired. But
I understand. What does Bill Gates' company do? Produces software. Part of the.
I don't want to make this about Bill Gates.
I understand. So let me.
But I want to get back to the Common Core. So Common Core, they're focusing on math and science and English and how you integrate all of those things in a smart, thoughtful way. Why would anybody be opposed to this? The National Association of Governors are the ones who actually promoted this all across the country. Republicans like yourself and Democrats.
They're running away from it, Pat. Florida, Alabama, these governors realize what a disaster this is. Now, give me a minute without interrupting, and I will lay out very simply for you. No one is against.
Actually, I'm really playing devil's advocate.
I know you are, which is
because you know what? Sure. This is an important matter. How this gets worked through is going to, in my opinion, dictate whether or not the United States is going to continue to be a world leader or just some middle-end country. So
you're absolutely right. Nobody is against increasing standards for our children. Needs to be done. The question is, how do you do it and how do you phase it in? The problem with Common Core is the rollout was way too fast. School districts weren't being able to be prepared. And you can go back and look at YouTube videos of me talking on the floor of the Assembly 3 years ago predicting this was going to be a disaster. Now, you have a number of components, and most of it deals with increased testing. Now, we're asking children in kindergarten, first and second grade, to take extensive tests.
Why?
Why? Because this is so they can build a database of where children are. The problem is when you put burdensome tests on kindergarten, first graders, and second grades, of which 75% of these kids are going to fail.
What does that mean, failing? But hold back. That's a question.
Okay.
You don't answer it right now. We have to take a break.
Okay.
We're going to find out what that means when you say you're giving a test to a first or second grader or somebody in kindergarten, and they're failing.
Correct.
More with Andrew Raia after the break. Stay tuned.
This is the ocean, and this is Kipper. Kipper doesn't live in the ocean, but if she did, this is likely what would happen. This is Sparky, and this is habitat destruction. Boozer doesn't like it, neither does Fluffy. We wouldn't let this happen to Kipper, Sparky, Boozer, or Fluffy. In the oceans, it's worse. Lacking opposable thumbs, Kipper can't take action, but you can. Visit BeringSeaCanyons.org.
Did you get a call from the coach about those kids who were caught drinking?
Not our guys. They know better.
Yeah, they know better.
Heads up, sport.
Real kids are curious about alcohol. 40% tried by the 8th grade. Talk early, talk often, get others involved.
Yes, ready. Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back to MTL here with New York State Assemblyman Andrew Raia from the 12th Assembly District. We were talking about the Common Core, the latest education reform, how it's being rolled out in New York State, what the reaction has been of parents and educators. And you made a point before the break that the tests that are being given to youngsters, we're talking about young kids, kindergarten, first grade, right. Are just too onerous. Pick it up from there.
It is too onerous. So what happens is they're being set up to fail. We've already seen from the first round of testing that 75% of the kids are failing.
Well, everybody did poorly because why?
Well, why? First off,
I mean, all these kids who thought they were real smart didn't do so great on
yeah, I
this
understand,
stuff.
but
I'm not talking about kids in kindergarten. I'm talking about high school.
I understand,
kids.
but let's focus on my biggest concern are for those youngest children. Yeah. Because by setting them up to fail at such an early age puts them in a mindset to fail in the future. Now, you want to test 5th, 6th, 7th high school kids, that's fine. But when you set a young child up for failure, that in that beginning stage of their education, that's problematic. But here, let's lay this out. You're testing kids in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. The playing field is not level in New York State. Some school districts offer only a half-day kindergarten program. Some school districts offer a full-day kindergarten. Some school districts offer universal pre-K. Some school districts don't. So if you're going to test a child in 1st grade that had no universal pre-K and only half-day kindergarten, they're obviously at a major disadvantage compared to the same child that had universal pre-K and full-day kindergarten.
Assemblyman, don't we want to do, I'm playing that devil's advocate here purposefully. Don't we, I mean, look, it doesn't surprise you or me, anybody watching this, that a child who hasn't gone to some form of pre-K, who hasn't been in full-day kindergarten, who don't have parents that read to them or families that support them, aren't going to do that well, especially in the early grades. And by the way, evidence shows that they may not do well their entire career.
Correct.
But when you do when you provide these measurements, the educators don't call them tests, they call them assessments.
Correct.
When you do these assessments, doesn't that just confirm something that maybe we should be offering as a society? You got extra money up in Albany, universal pre-K.
I'm a big fan of universal
No, I know
pre-K.
it, and full-day kindergarten.
Absolutely.
I know. So anyway, I think your point is well made, but at the end, aren't we really, instead of not doing the test and pretending like everything is okay, shouldn't we be addressing the fundamental issue, which is that kids are not prepared to learn?
You're absolutely right. And the question becomes, how do you fix the system?
That's right. So how do you?
There's some good points in Common Core. I'm not denying that. But keep in mind, virtually every school district has the ability to change the Common Core, and they're already doing it.
So they have a lot of flexibility.
Not a lot, but they have some.
Okay, but they've got more than they've had in the past iterations of education reform. So why are the teachers so opposed to this? I mean, the teachers are flipping out.
Because,
Why?
Because
are they not
teachers,
good teachers? Are they not up to the
no,
task?
in fact, I maintain...
Should there be more teacher training?
I maintain our Long Island schools are the best schools anywhere in the country. And when you look at our graduation rates and those kids that go to college, it bears that out. Keep in mind, Common Core was part of Race to the Top. It was Race to the Top was the program that gave New York State $700 million to build charter schools in New York City. One of the components of taking that Race to the Top money was that you had to implement Common Core. That's fine for New York City because New York City doesn't increase its local share to education like we do through the property taxes. So Mayor Bloomberg did not want to build more public schools or increase the financing, so he wanted that $700 million. The problem is New York City is where we need to be concentrating. They're the ones that bring down the entire average for New York State.
The schools on Long Island, the schools up in Huntington, the schools in Deer Park and North Babbitt are great.
They are great. And how do you deny a 98, 99% graduation rate?
Well, where do they stand, for example, on these international tests that say that the very best schools on Long Island are kind of middling when compared to other places? Now, I want to come back to something who are international competitors.
Right.
I want to come back to something that you said. I think it's really true. Educators will hold up the country of Finland's education system as one of being the best, most rigorous, best prepared students in the world. Turns out they don't test kids early on, because for the very point that you raised. So why haven't the educators in Albany, as they're looking around the world and they're looking at these education models, figured out that, we shouldn't be like getting all worked up about tests, especially at the early grades. We should be what they did was to spend a lot of money improving instruction, getting the best teachers in front of these kids.
That's right, and every year, you have teachers programs. Every year, the budget cuts those programs for continuing education for teachers. And that's unfortunate. And every year the legislature fights to get that money back for those teachers programs. The bottom line is...
So how does this get fixed? You and other state legislators have been very vocal in advocating for your districts, which is exactly what you should be doing. How does it get fixed? What is the Commissioner of Education and the Board of Education? And they're the ones responsible for education, at least when it comes to education policy like this. You're responsible for the budget.
How does it get fixed?
How does it get fixed?
The problem is you have a commissioner that is totally out of touch who sends his kids to charter school. You have a Board of Regents that sit in their ivory tower, and if you take a look at the Board of Regents, every single one of those kids, with the exception of Roger Tillis,
who's a Long
Islander, and sent his kids to public school as well.
Where does he send his kids? To Great Neck, one of the best school districts in the world.
Correct. However, he's been pretty quiet on the whole subject, as has been the rest of the Board of Regents.
But how does it get fixed? What needs to be done?
Slow the implementation down. This was rushed. If school districts had 1 or 2 years to prepare for this, so you're not teaching kids to take a test. You want to teach kids to learn, not specifically to take a test, because we all know what happens when you cram for a test.
But in theory,
you go out the door and you forget that information.
But in theory, the educators will say that's exactly what Common Core is about. It's about how to learn and how to think and how to integrate all of these skills.
Well, if that's the theory, then they have failed miserably in the practice.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Meet the Leaders will be back in 90 seconds.
Why should you choose to fly Long Island MacArthur Airport? I'm ISO Town Supervisor Tom Croce, and the answer is clear. Close to home, no lines, convenient parking, a 5-minute shuttle from Long Island Railroad's Ronkonkoma Station, and Wi-Fi is now available at the airport from Optimum. Internet access while you wait for the flight. Long Island MacArthur Airport, the stress-free alternative. Relax, your vacation starts here.
You show your smile to the world every day, but nearly 4 out of 5 Americans say they would smile a lot more if their teeth looked better. The good news is, healthy teeth can be safely and affordably corrected at any age. Advances in orthodontics have made the treatment more successful and comfortable than ever.
Only orthodontists receive 2 to 3 years of education beyond dental school to learn the proper way to align and straighten teeth. To learn more, visit mylifemysmile.org.
Some goodbyes are worth fighting for. Help the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation honor Marines by educating their children at mcsf.org.
Welcome back to Meet the Leaders, here with New York State Assemblyman Andrew Raia. Assemblyman, I can't end the show without asking you, how is the rollout of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, working in New York? New York has got its own exchange. Do we have the same problems as the federal website?
No, we had a little bit of a slow rollout, but it was fixed within a couple of days. You know, I'm generally against Obamacare, primarily because New York State's been doing it right for years.
In what way?
Well, we already have some of the most comprehensive insurance programs, whether it be our Medicaid system, whether it be Child Health Plus, or whether it be Family Health Plus. So already in New York State, there should have been very few people without some form of insurance.
You know, it's interesting you should say that because you're right. I remember back when I was in the state legislature many years ago. We did this stuff called community rating.
Precisely.
And basically what it said, you can't have an insurance policy where you're charging somebody for a pre-existing condition or not writing the policy at all. So we've led the way in terms of those aspects of it.
There's the reason New York State is probably going to be one of the few states that does well under Obamacare is because of competition. So in many states, you only have one insurance company or two insurance companies offering benefits. In New York State, you have upwards of 4. Upstate, in some of the rural areas, that may not be the case. Also, New York State already has some of the highest insurance rates already. So any change that brings them down a little bit obviously is going to be seen as a plus.
But won't New York be a huge beneficiary from the increased money going into Medicaid and the expansion of that coverage? You know, that is the health insurance program for the working people and the poor.
Well, the problem is that is going to be what spells the end of Obamacare, because they grossly misjudged how many people were going to be put on the Medicaid system as a result of this. And in New York State, roughly 75% of the people applying turn out to be eligible for Medicaid. That's fine if you're in California, because we spend more on our Medicaid system than California and Texas combined, and California has twice the number of people. We offer so many optional benefits that when the federal government stops paying for that increase in Medicaid, which is under Obamacare, is going to happen down the road.
Well, it's going to go from 100% to 90%.
Correct, but still, that is a major hit. When we spend upwards of 60% of our entire budget on Medicaid, that is going to be a deal breaker.
But right now, it's a windfall for the state.
I think it absolutely is going to help.
But what about the other part of it, where you have these subsidies? I'm talking about for the non-Medicaid, people who buy insurance on the exchange outside of the state's Medicaid program. That's going to help people a lot here, won't it? We're talking about people who have incomes of up to $90,000.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Like I said, New York is going to do well, but here is one of the problems that's already coming. The doctors are walking into my office almost on a daily basis now. What are they saying? I've just been dropped as a provider.
Why?
Because insurance companies are allowed to drop 4% of their doctors without cause. In order to recoup those costs necessary to implement Obamacare, they have to cut back on the number of doctors. So what's happening is you're putting more people on the Medicaid system. Fewer and fewer doctors are taking Medicaid patients. If a person on Medicaid needs to see a specialist, they may have to wait 6 months. In that 6 months waiting to see an eye surgeon, that person might go blind. And we're seeing this problem in California already, and New York is not going to be too far behind. So increasing access to health care is great, but yet at the same time, you can't decrease the number of doctors providing services, and this is where the rub is going to happen.
That's a really good point. Obviously, that's something that the state is going to have to watch very carefully.
It's all about reimbursement, right? We can't put more mandates on doctors, ask them to do more paperwork, ask them to see more patients, and then not increase their reimbursement.
Okay, let's shift gears.
Sure.
LIPA is going to go through a big change. The Long Island Power Authority, LIPA, is basically becoming a holding company.
Correct.
What is that going to mean for the
Don't call it that, because the IRS will then reject the whole thing.
I know, you're right. I mean, technically they still own everything, and they do. Yes, they own it, but they're contracting out the operations.
It's about time.
But hadn't they done that in the past? I mean,
No.
Didn't they really do that with National Grid and before that case spent?
They still, LIPA was still the middle line managers and dealt with command and control. And the right computers, when you don't have the right expertise and you're in the middle of a major emergency, whether it be a blizzard or two hurricanes back to back, the people that are the professionals, i.e. National Grid and now PSE&G, they're the ones that run power plants and transmission systems. Let them run it. And what we saw during the blizzard, when LIPA said, okay, National Grid, here you go, you run the show, everything went much more smoothly. So on that aspect, things should be good. The problem is, as I already predicted, rates weren't going to be frozen for 2 years. And here's the big kicker. This whole LIPA reform package that we voted on in Albany was supposed to reduce the amount of bonding. Just recently we saw LIPA owes more money today than they did when they took over the old Lilco and the Shoreham power plant. So obviously the legislation's already been a failure.
So you're for or against seeing Northport's assessment reduced, the Northport power plant that's basically not producing any power? Yes or no, for or against it?
There's never a yes or no question. Every commercial entity, and make no mistake about it, Northport Power Plant is a privately owned
It's owned by
entity,
National Grid.
National Grid.
Yeah.
Everyone has the right to challenge their assessment. The bottom line is how much, and the fact that they're only running at 2 of the 4 burners, I think is bad, because here we just approved a whole new power plant down on out in Yaphank. We could have put that power plant right in Northport. The town agreed not to increase the assessment. We could
I have to cut you off.
Show.
I want you to talk about STAR. There are a lot of people who may lose the STAR property tax rebate that they get on their state taxes. What do they have to do?
It's very simple. All they have to do is Google New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. There'll be a bar right there that you can click to register for your STAR. You can even call them directly. Basically what's happening is we're wasting $72 million a year in New York State because people are double dipping.
How do you mean double dipping?
They own 2 pieces of property
so they have a vacation home and a home that's their primary residence?
And they're collecting a STAR exemption on both of them when by law it can only be your primary residence. So we want to weed that out.
So people are committing fraud. I mean, that's against the law.
Absolutely.
But this is a way of saving that by I get you. So they have to apply just once.
By December 31st.
What's the deadline? December 31st.
By the end of this month, take the 5 minutes, make the phone call, and save yourself $700. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till next year to do it.
And that's real money.
That's real money.
Assemblyman, thanks so much for being here.
You,
this
Pat.
has been a great discussion.
Always love debating the issues of the day with you.
We appreciate it. A lot going on in Albany.
Absolutely.
I'll see you up there in January.
Absolutely.
And that's going to do it for this edition of MTL. I'm Pat Halpin, once again helping you meet the leaders.
Are you a Long Island-based business with 100 or fewer employees? If so, did you sustain direct damage or economic hardship from Superstorm Sandy or Hurricane Irene? Grants and low-interest loans are available through the New York Rising program. At the Small Business Development Center at Stony Brook, we will walk you through the application process and help you access these funding solutions. Call us. We help Long Island small businesses grow and prosper.
Do you have credit card debt, or are you struggling to pay your mortgage? For nearly 20 years, Debt Counseling Corporation has helped consumers just like you. As a nonprofit credit counseling and HUD-approved agency, all of our counseling is free of charge. Our debt management plan could be the answer you are looking for. We were voted the first place winner in the Best of Long Island Awards for our services. Got debt? We can help. Call us today at 631-582-4300.